Can your boss require you to get a coronavirus vaccine? It is, as you would imagine, a very sensitive subject, and a case can be made that they could and should be able to do so. Joining us now, the author of the book, The Cure, a Blueprint for Solving America's Healthcare Crisis, healthcare analyst Seth Denson is back with us on the show. Seth, good morning. Pleasure to have you with us. Employers, especially in privately held companies, are in a bit of a catch-22 right now. So take us through what could happen over the next several months.
Yeah, they certainly are. And this is where you've got a little bit of a conflict of multiple laws, right? So under OSHA, employers are required to create a safe and healthy environment for employees to come into. And so HHS has declared that coronavirus is an imminent threat. Thus, OSHA laws will apply to the coronavirus. Now, on the flip side of that, you have a viable vaccine now. So many employers are weighing out whether or not they should require a vaccine for employees to come back into the workplace to create that safe environment. And that's a challenge that many are going to have to wrestle with.
Right now, certain companies, particularly private companies, do require employees to get vaccinated for the flu every fall. I think that is a long way off from the coronavirus vaccine because that vaccine is still attached to at least some controversy. Many people, according to the COVID tracking project, up to 40% of Republicans are still hesitant about getting this vaccine. What happens if you are an employee, your boss says you got to get vaccinated? Could you be fired? What rights do employees have?
Well, you could, and there's actually been court case precedents where employees have been fired for not getting vaccines that are required as part of their employment. Now, employers still have to comply with things like the Civil Rights Act and the ADA, which require reasonable accommodations if you have a health condition. Maybe you have allergies associated with what's in the vaccine, or under the Civil Rights Act, if you have deeply held religious beliefs that say you don't believe that you need to get the vaccine and it's against your religion. Those are things that employers will still have to comply with, but at the end of the day, the courts have held that employers have the right to set the standards of employment so long as they're non-discriminatory across the board.
New York City mayoral candidate Andrew Yang tweeted out that he thinks everybody should have something on their phone, like a barcode that indicates if you've been vaccinated or not, or perhaps even a little V on your mask to let people know that you've been vaccinated. This sounds like the scarlet letter to me. Do you see something like that ultimately coming as early as this spring?
I don't know that will be required from a government entity. I do think that, our world has a terrible history of labeling people and requiring labels on clothing and things like that. So I hope that we don't go there. What I do think will happen, though, I think that corporations will respond and the free market will respond, as it should, right? So there will be certain companies that require consumers to have proof that they've been vaccinated, perhaps airlines or amusement parks or hotels. And so there will need to be a way that our citizenry can show that they've had the vaccine in the event that the free market requires it. But my hope is that it begins and ends with the free market making those decisions.
All right, so the goal was to have 20 million Americans vaccinated by the end of December. Right now, it looks like we'll come up just short of that goal. But, the vaccination program here in the U.S. and in at least 27 EU countries is moving along, and it will do so from here on out, basically. Who's paying for the vaccines? And is that something that ultimately is going to cost the American people money?
Well, at the end of the day, the American people are paying for the vaccine, just like they're paying for a stimulus package and everything else, right? So there's two parts to the vaccine itself, right? There's the ingredients that make up the vaccine, and part of the CARES Act had funding in it that the government was going to pay for. Of course, they're paying for it with taxpayer money. And then the second part, though, is the actual administration of the vaccine itself. And that's going to be required to be covered by health insurance plans. Again, paid for with taxpayer money because taxpayers pay for health insurance premiums, whether that's privately or through public interest. So at the end of the day, the Americans are paying for this. But when you go, you can feel a little bit better about yourself because you probably won't get a bill when you're there.
That's right. You won't get that bill, at least not yet. You won't get a bill in the mail. All right, Seth Denson, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. Good stuff as always.